wondering now how it differs from the Teutonic Thrash Metal scene.
The German metal scene is
Yeah.
it's way bigger. I mean the fans are much more dedicated. I would say there are lots of hardcore fans here in the U.S., but I would say it's much more finicky, I guess is the right word. The fans in Germany, I mean, that's kind of like our home base when in Europe, and probably our biggest fan base, in Europe. So it's just different. I think I think people in Europe in general take a little more seriously in some cases. Not to say that the fans in America don't, but you have to remember that the United States is really, really big. And so touring here, for example, there might be a lot of fans in the US, but they're spread out all over the country. There are certain places like Los Angeles now is a big metal, like thrash. There's a large thrash community there. And in other places too. But, when you're in the middle of the country, for example, sometimes it's harder to find a large number of fans to come to the shows. So I'm glad I have a soundtrack.
Well, when we did the 70,000 tons of metal cruise, there was 63 countries were represented on that ship. 63, right? 60% of the clientele, the fans, were German.
Wow.
So that just gives you an indication of how much they love heavy metal.
That's a dream of me, to go to 70,000 tons of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something
What'd you say?
Something unique.
Sorry, Kragen, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What did you say? You had a soundtrack of something?
Yeah, you're my soundtrack over there strumming your guitar.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm looking at
music.
I'm looking at all the comments, and I'm gonna say hi to Chris Heathcote. I see him in the chat there. We got a question of how's the Heathen beer? It's delicious.
We need the Heathen beer.
It is really it's really good. It's really good beer.
But you don't you post here in Europe?
No, it was a limited run by a brewery in Oakland, California, and of course we'll look into doing another run, hopefully one for Europe or something like that. I think that would be really cool.
Yes.
Maybe Lee and I are big Weiss beer fans, so from Germany.
Okay.
So we would love to have a Heathen Weiss beer. I know. Yeah. Well, I know we had one show in particular, I think it was Thrash Assault Festival, where Lee actually stopped playing because he wanted some Weiss beer, and then some people brought some up to the stage, and then we continued playing, and then he stopped again because he decided that he and I should have a shred off in the middle of the set.
Yeah,
so Dave sat down.
I was fucking pissed. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? You're stopping the show so you can have a beer, and it took them a long time to get that beer to him. So we're just like fucking standing there. Okay.
Well, if you see,
gonna fucking... Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I see another question from Metal Riot asking if Heathen would be if it's possible that Heathen would be doing the Bass Strikes Back tour in America that includes Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel. Anything's possible. We're looking into things, but at the moment, like, touring is kind of going to be difficult. I mean, there's all kinds of reports that venues and the ticket agencies are going to require that you provide proof that you have the vaccine for COVID, and we don't know what's going on yet. So it's a little difficult to plan, but I would love to see that happen. We also have another one asking if Dave and I have ever been to Ireland. I don't know if Dave has. I have. I've played there a couple times with Exodus. But and I love Dublin. I've also been to I don't know if it's, I think it's pronounced Galway.
Yeah.
And I've seen the Cliffs of Moher, and it's I love Ireland personally. So
Nice.
yeah.
So Dave and Kragen, this question is for both of you. Except thrash metal music, are you listening something else, some other genres of metal? Do you like something else, or only you are into thrash?
Dave, I'll let you go first.
First,
I
Dave.
don't listen to anything but ABBA and Heathen. That's it.
So Dave, except thrash metal, are you listening other genres of metal? And if yes, would you like to tell us any band?
Yeah, but I like a lot of the progressive stuff. But I like doom metal a lot. I like the heaviness of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that's one of the things that drew me to like Black Sabbath, you know, and some of the stuff. It's very doom metal, and that just the heavy chords and the heavy, just the feeling of that. That's like, you know, you smoke some good weed and it just like melt into the record. You know what I mean? So I like the doom stuff, you know, a lot.
Cool. Kragen?
I like all kinds of stuff. I like you know, regular metal, thrash metal, power metal, death metal, progressive metal. I listen to all kinds of stuff. I mean, I got a stack of CDs over here and all new stuff. So
any like favorite? No favorite. Any band that you like?
well, yeah, I like a lot of bands. My favorite styles are probably thrash metal, and I love old school death metal. I like a lot of the classic, like 80s metal. All of that stuff is cool. I also like classical music. You can hear it in Heathen stuff. I like jazz, and I mean, I like pretty much everything. I don't, unless it's sugary sweet pop, or
some sugar.
You know, yeah. Well,
depends how
much sugar. We have a couple other questions I'm seeing. Brian Rooney asked, which guitar player inspired me to play guitar? The first time I ever got a guitar was because I heard Back in Black by AC/DC. So I guess that would be Angus Young. My sort of lead guitarist inspiration would have had to be Randy Rhoads. And rhythm guitar inspiration, I would say probably James Hetfield. You know, there's so many guitar players that have inspired me in some way or another. It's great. I mean, music is just, it's amazing. So
Future of thrash.
Okay, future of thrash metal.
Yeah.
Well, one trend that I personally don't like that I see in thrash metal is there seem to be a lot of rules these days of what makes thrash. I think one of the most important things to remember from the original thrash bands is that we didn't have any rules. None of these bands had rules, and they played the music that they loved, and they didn't care what kind of song it was or what it, you know, they didn't care about any of that. They just basically played what they loved and what they heard. And I'd like to see thrash metal get back to that, because I feel like a lot of the a lot of bands are sort of they put themselves in a box by putting all these rules. And so what ends up happening when you do that, no matter what the style of music is, it all ends up sounding a little too similar. And the thing that was great, if you go to look at the Bay Area scene, for example, every one of those Bay Area bands sounds different. Heathen doesn't sound like like Exodus, and Forbidden didn't sound like Violence, and they all had their own thing. Each vocalist sounded very different, and the styles of music were very different. Heathen was more melodic. Violence was more aggressive. Each one of the bands had their own vibe, and I think that's important for thrash metal to kind of continue. When you put boundaries around what you do, and things start to become formulaic, then I think that's when the genre suffers. And we saw that like with you would say the 80s metal scene. A lot of the early, like especially the hair metal bands, they all became so similar, and they all did the same kind of thing, that the only ones that stood out anymore were Guns N' Roses, for example, at the end of the scene. And then all the other ones, they just kind of went away. And I think that I don't want that to happen with thrash metal. So I would my whole thing, I guess, would be, throw away the rules, forget the rules, write what sounds good, mix genres, mix ideas. That's how the genre will keep alive and keep sounding fresh. So that's what I would hope for the future of thrash metal.
Yeah, like metal is all about breaking the rules. So let's go to Dave's opinion. What do you think what the future of thrash is, Dave?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're back?
Well, I think that the future is just bleak. I think it's all over. I think that we should just all pick up an acoustic guitar and start playing folk music, because metal is dead, and it's thrash metal's dead, and it's got no future.
That's sarcasm.
I know. Sarcasm. No, you know what? I am so hopeful. With the whole Spotify thing, we've been added to different playlists besides them just playing our record. And I'll put on the playlist because I want to hear, Empire of the Blind on that playlist on Thrashers or whatever. But it's loaded with a lot of new bands that I've never heard of, that I'm like, oh, I like this band, Gamma Bomb. I like Gamma Bomb. I think it's alive and well, and the bands are getting better and better. Since the resurgence of thrash metal, when the Bay Area sort of woke up again after the Thrash of the Titans, literally, I think that with the new metal, I think a lot of the kids were turned off by some of the new metal bands, and they looked to the thrash for guidance on how to do it right, how to play that fast picking, that intricate drumming. And they've taken a page from all of us, and these kids are going to be unstoppable, and they are doing it right. And as we are still doing it, we still want to still set the bar, before we go out. but I think it's a healthy scene right now across the globe. Heavy metal and thrash metal is just really a force right now. And also, the death metal stuff's out there. There's all these different genres, and it's all happening all at the same time. So it's pretty incredible.
Metal is bigger than it ever has been. I mean, it really is. Just how widespread it is, all the different subgenres and everything. I mean, the scene is kind of flourishing. I mean, it's a cool thing to see that metal has lasted this many years. It's still not taken seriously by sort of the mainstream, music companies and stuff, but it's great to see. What's that?
Yeah, metal doesn't get the respect on the radio, on celestial radio.
Yes.
The celestial radio, especially in the United States, across the country, Clear Channel controls it all, and they're still playing the same songs that they played when I was a teenager. They played Led Zeppelin, and they play the same Led Zeppelin song.
Yes.
I love Led Zeppelin, but they play the same fucking song. They barely play Metallica. It's a crying shame, really.
Yeah.
But you know what? Metal, we don't, fuck them. We don't need them. we just have to keep going. If the fans keep buying records and go to the shows and keep it underground to a certain aspect, or it's that's the way it is.
Yeah.
It makes it more personal.
Yeah. Like
There's
Dio says, metal never died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a really good question on the screen that I'm seeing right now. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. If I butcher it, I apologize. Is it Paula Mendoza
Yeah,
is
it's Paula
asking
from Mexico.
how do we see the future of the band and the industry considering the current situation? So when I was just talking about rules, all the rules went out the window with COVID-19, and we've kind of have to figure out, like, what do we do now? Because what we had been doing, we would, bands would put out an album and then go tour, and then put out an album and then go tour. And right now the touring is not possible. So, what do we do? And I think what we're starting to see is that bands are going and they're spending a little more time on their music. And the quality of the music is a little bit better because of it. We've had some pretty good releases so far this year. And I think ultimately, bands are going to have to find a new way to do things, because the old way, who knows how long this is going to go on for, and if things will return to normal, or if things will be totally different.
Yeah.
So, for Heathen, we've been talking about what we're going to do, and we're certainly going to try to put out more music more frequently than we have been. We've traditionally been very bad at that. So we hope to have some more new material out much more quickly, and more releases and stuff. And that's really all that we can do. We've got to just focus on what we can to be productive and keep the band going. And I think that's what all bands are going to have to do. They're going to have to do a lot more music, and while we can't play live.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now I can see the questions a little bit. At least I saw that one, and that's the thing we've been talking about a lot. Is we have some things coming around the corner, and I think because the record, Empire of the Blind is doing well, Nuclear Blast is starting to say, okay, what do you guys want to do? And they understand that the more content we have to keep things flowing is a good thing. So, we just have to be up to the task to get some work done, and, and shock the Heathen fans, and actually put out something new, in less than a couple, 3 or 4 years or 10 years or whatever. So that's the goal at this point.
And yeah, that makes sense. And Dave, if you are reflecting for the 30 years of your career, any things you are proud of and any things you would have done differently?
Well, I mean, I don't want to, there's lots of things that you think, I would love to have been able to do that differently, but all the things that have happened, and the things that I've done, and the decisions that I've made personally or whatever, has led me to where I am now, and I'm in a good place. The band is stronger than ever, and we're in a good mode. I think we have a tight unit now. So I'm happy. I don't think I would change anything, because that would just put a kink in the whole, time continuum. But reflecting back, I'm just super grateful. I'm super grateful that the stars aligned, and I was able to play with some amazing musicians, and make so many friends all over the the globe, and relationships that will last till I die. And I attribute that all to heavy metal, and just music in general. Because if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I'd be. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's the spark and connection that metal has, and what we're trying to do as well. So, Kragen,
Yes.
your turn. So, anything you are proud of in your career, and things you would have done differently?
Well, there's always, like Dave said, there's always things that that I would have done differently. But I mean, I'm proud of all the music that I've released, with all the bands, Psychosis, Prototype, definitely Heathen. I mean, I'm very I'm very fortunate to have been able to play with not just one but two of my favorite thrash metal bands of all time,
Which
with
one?
Exodus and Heathen. I've gotten to play gigs with, um, I mean, basically all of the bands that I grew up loving. I think the only band I have not played a gig supporting is Iron Maiden. But I mean, I got to play gigs with Metallica and Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, Judas Priest, and I met a lot
And
of
Russ,
great people along the way. So it's been great. I can't complain. It's just we're fortunate to be able to do this, and Dave and I and the rest of the guys in the band we just want to make more music and add to our musical legacy. That's what it's all about.
So the bands you are
yeah,
summing up, it's everyone's bucket list, like.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, I can't complain. I make a living playing music, and that's what I wanted to do since I was a teenager. So it's it's great. It's not easy. It's not it's a struggle. This bit, like I was saying before the call, this business is very, very complicated, and it's hard to even get paid for your music. But we work hard at it and do it because we love it.
yeah.
So, Kragen, I have seen that you're a very busy man. You're doing music, you work, you are managing bands, as if I'm correct, and also you did the book, the guitar book.
I have I think, what am I up to? I'm up to 8 guitar books now.
Hey,
Um,
okay.
yeah, this year's guitar books, I did a guitar book for Empire of the Blind and the Prototype album Continuum,
Yeah,
and I'm working on an Exodus Bonded by Blood guitar book,
yeah. So,
which I hope to get out this year. We'll see. There's not much time left. But yeah, I mean, I just like to stay busy.
yeah, I wanted to ask, nowadays, okay, because of the situation, you're at home, maybe we have more time to work, But before, when you had the normal life, like you were working for Exodus, you're touring with Exodus, and also with Heathen, how you managed to do that?
I just try to make the best use of my downtime as possible. I really just like to be productive. So, in between tours, I would come home and I would either write music and record demos, or or work on the guitar books, or just whatever I could. It's there's not a lot of there's never enough time for all the things that I want to do. So I like to just cram as much in every day as I can. And my wife would gladly tell you that I am frustrated many days because I don't get everything that I want to get done. But I mean, that's all we can do is just try and accomplish as much as possible. And for me, it's all about making as many albums and guitar books and whatever that I can, and helping other bands that I work with do the same.
We have a question from Val Nuevo. For Dave, I want to ask you about your anti for dying season. It's like Counter-Strike. How did you think that?
Well, actually, I had some ideas to do a video for Dying Season.